A 29-year-old engineer stepped out of a tram in a bustling city, completely unaware that a single falling object was about to release the heat of a star right above his head. It was a clear, warm morning on August 6, 1945. The man was Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He was in the city of Hiroshima on a business trip. He worked for a large shipbuilding company and had spent the summer designing oil tankers. This was supposed to be his last day in the city before taking a train back to his family. He walked toward the shipyard, carrying a small bag with his drawings. He heard the faint hum of an airplane high above. He looked up into the bright blue sky. A tiny silver dot was flying over the city. A small parachute dropped from the plane. And then, the world simply vanished into pure white light. The flash was brighter than anything human eyes had ever seen. It was a silent, blinding glare that erased the shadows. Before Tsutomu could even process the light, the heat hit him. It felt like standing directly inside a massive oven. He had only a split second to react. He dove toward a nearby potato patch, covering his eyes and plugging his ears. A fierce, roaring wind followed the light. This was the shockwave of the first atomic bomb. The blast picked Tsutomu up from the ground, spun him through the air like a dry leaf, and slammed him back into the dirt. The force was so strong it tore the shirt right off his back. Heavy steel machines were thrown like toys. Concrete buildings cracked and fell. When Tsutomu finally opened his eyes, the morning sun was gone. The sky was pitch black, choked with thick, swirling dust and smoke. He could barely see his own hands. His face and arms burned with terrible pain. The left side of his body was covered in severe burns. His ears rang loudly, leaving him temporarily deaf. He stumbled to his feet, completely lost in a place he had known just minutes before. The city of Hiroshima had been flattened. Where there were once thousands of wooden houses, shops, and busy streets, there was now only an endless flat field of burning rubble. Fires began to sprout everywhere. People wandered through the grey dust like ghosts, covered in ashes, not making a sound. The sheer scale of the destruction was impossible to understand. It looked like the end of the world. Tsutomu knew he had to get out. He needed to find his way to the train station. He walked for hours through the burning ruins. Every step was an agony. He passed melted metal, broken bridges, and rivers filled with fallen debris. He saw things that day that would haunt his dreams forever, but a single thought pushed him forward through the nightmare. He had to see his wife and his baby boy again. He finally reached the train station on the edge of the city. Miraculously, some trains were still running. The station was packed with injured, silent people. Tsutomu managed to squeeze onto a dark, crowded train car. He sat on the hard floor, nursing his burned skin. The wheels began to clack against the tracks. The train slowly rolled away from the burning city, carrying him through the long, dark night. The journey took an entire day. He rode 180 miles south back to his hometown. He arrived in the city of Nagasaki on August 8th. The contrast was shocking. Nagasaki was completely untouched. The sun was shining, the streets were whole, children were playing outside. It felt like stepping onto another planet. Tsutomu walked slowly to his house. He was covered in heavy bandages, his face black with soot and medicine. When his mother saw him, she gasped. She thought he was a ghost. His wife rushed to his side, holding their tiny son. Tsutomu was safe. His impossible luck had carried him out of the fire and back to the people he loved. A doctor treated his wounds, applying a thick black ointment to his severe burns. He was told to rest in bed. But Tsutomu was a very loyal worker. He felt a deep sense of duty to his company. The very next morning, despite the terrible pain, he got up, put on his clothes, and walked to his office to report on his business trip. It was the morning of August 9th, 1945. Tsutomu stood in his boss's office in Nagasaki. His boss looked at the heavy bandages and listened to the wild story. Tsutomu tried to explain the single flash of light. He tried to explain how one bomb had erased an entire massive city in a matter of seconds. The boss shook his head. He did not believe it. He told Tsutomu that such a thing was simply not possible. No single weapon could do that. It made no sense. And right at that exact moment, the room lit up with a blinding, pure white flash. Tsutomu knew that light. He knew exactly what was coming. While everyone else in the office stood frozen in confusion, Tsutomu threw himself to the floor. He covered his eyes and plugged his ears. He pressed his body flat against the ground. The shockwave tore through the city of Nagasaki. The windows of the office shattered inward. The walls blew apart. The roof collapsed, raining heavy wood and sharp glass down on top of them. The familiar roaring wind ripped through the room, tearing away Tsutomu's bandages. He was buried under the heavy rubble. For a moment, everything was totally dark again. He pushed the broken pieces of the building off his back and crawled out of the wreckage. He looked out the shattered window. The impossible had happened. The exact same nightmare had followed him home. The city of Nagasaki was now burning. A massive pillar of smoke reached high into the sky. Tsutomu rushed out of the ruined office building. His only thought was his wife and his baby. He ran through the streets he had known his whole life, climbing over fallen trees and broken roofs. The destruction was just as complete as it had been in Hiroshima. He ran toward his house. The closer he got, the worse the damage appeared. His neighborhood was completely destroyed. The house was flattened into a pile of broken wood. His heart sank. He dug wildly through the ruins, calling out their names. Nobody answered. He searched for hours. The answer amazed him. He found them alive. When the second atomic bomb fell, his wife had been out looking for burn medicine for his wounds. When the flash hit, she grabbed their baby and ran into a nearby tunnel. That dark, heavy tunnel shielded them from the terrible heat and the crushing shockwave. They survived without a single scratch. The family sat together in the ruins of their city. They had nothing left but each other. Tsutomu had been at ground zero of the two most powerful explosions in human history just 3 days apart, and he was still breathing. But the danger was not over. A few days later, a strange sickness swept through the survivors. This was the invisible poison left behind by the weapons. Tsutomu developed a very high fever. He could not eat, he could not drink. His hair began to fall out in large clumps. His burns would not heal. He lay in a dark shelter, fighting for his life all over again. While he lay in the dark, the war finally ended. The country surrendered. The fighting stopped. Silence fell over the ruined cities. Slowly, very slowly, Tsutomu began to recover. His fever broke. His skin started to heal. He gained a little bit of strength. He and his wife built a small wooden shack in the ruins of Nagasaki. They started the long, hard work of living in a changed world. For the next several decades, Tsutomu lived a very quiet life. He worked as a translator for the foreign soldiers who came to help rebuild the country. Later, he became a school teacher. Eventually, he went back to work designing ships. He had 2 more beautiful daughters. He lived a normal, quiet life. He wrapped his terrible scars in long sleeves. He never talked about the 2 flashes of light. He never mentioned the fire. He kept his memories locked away in a dark box inside his mind. Many survivors chose this path. There was a deep sadness attached to the bombings. People did not want to remember the pain. They wanted to move forward. Focusing on the future became the only way to heal. Tsutomu wanted his children to grow up in peace, without the heavy shadow of his incredible trauma. Years turned into decades. The ruined cities were completely rebuilt. Tall glass buildings replaced the wooden shacks. Green parks grew where the ashes once settled. Tsutomu grew old. His hair turned white. He lost his hearing in one ear from the first blast, but otherwise he remained remarkably healthy. Then, as he entered his 80s, something shifted inside him. He noticed that the world was starting to forget. The younger generations did not understand the true horror of those weapons. Countries around the world were building more and more of them, making them bigger and deadlier. The memory of the fire was fading into history books. Tsutomu realized he had a duty. His impossible luck was not just a random accident, it was a deeply human calling. He was a living witness to a power that could end the world. He decided he could no longer stay silent. He began to write. He wrote a book of beautiful, sad poems about the things he saw. He agreed to be interviewed for a documentary film. He stood in front of cameras and showed his scarred arms. He told the world exactly what it felt like to stand beneath a falling sun. His story shocked people everywhere. Very few people had ever survived one atomic blast. To survive two was beyond human understanding. In his 90s, Tsutomu traveled across the ocean. He flew to New York City and walked into the United Nations. He stood before leaders from all over the globe. He did not speak with anger. He did not ask for revenge. He spoke with a quiet, powerful sadness. He begged them to destroy their weapons. He told them that nobody should ever have to see that white light again. For a long time, the Japanese government only recognized him as a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing. The paperwork was simple that way, but in 2009, after hearing his incredible story, the government changed his records. He was officially recognized as a survivor of both atomic bombs. He is the only person in history to hold that official status. Out of the millions of people involved in the war, he stands entirely alone. Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away peacefully in 2010 at the age of 93. He had lived a long, full life. He saw his children grow. He saw his country heal. He saw the world change. Right now, in modern cities, thousands of people walk past the exact spots where Tsutomu once stood in the ashes. They carry phones, drink coffee, and laugh with friends. The ground beneath their feet holds the memory of a fierce fire, but it also holds the memory of incredible human strength. His journey provides a deeply human look at the unbreakable will to live. He did not ask to be part of history, he just wanted to go home to his family. But when history found him, twice, he refused to be destroyed. Think about the sheer force of that choice. A single man, broken and burned, crawling out of the rubble of a second ruined city, deciding to simply keep going. His life leaves us with an awe-inspiring truth. Weapons can break buildings, fire can burn cities. But the human spirit, driven by love and the desperate need to survive, is stronger than any force we have ever created.